Stage 3 now running into walkouts. Students across the world are walking out of class this week to make their voices heard on key issues. On Thursday, students from across the country took to the streets where they demanded action be taken when it comes to gun violence.
We walk out so that we won't have to walk out next year, so that future generations won't have to face the tragedy that we have. We walk out not because we want to, but because we need to.
That walkout was a follow-up to last year's March for Our Lives event, which came after the deadly shooting in Parkland, Florida. But that's not the only issue that kids are rallying behind. On Friday, students in the U.S. will join their peers from all around the world, demanding action be taken on climate change. Now, this event is expected to be massive, with demonstrations planned in nearly 100 countries.
This takes up a big part of my life now. I have said that I will continue to strike every Friday until Sweden is in line with the Paris Agreement. But I mean, that may take a couple of years, and I will just have to try to be patient.
That's 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, a Swedish student who's inspired a global movement to fight climate change. This year, she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts and will become the youngest recipient of the award if she were to win. But she's just one of the students taking to the streets on Friday. And joining us now from Newark, Delaware, founder of the Advance America Foundation and partner with We the Kids, Steve Gronka. Steve, thank you for joining us tonight. So I'm inspired by these movements, no matter what you think about political ideology, one way or the other. But to me, it's good to get young people involved in the political system early on compared to later. What's your take on young people just being involved in politics in general?
Well, it's a great thing, but they need to be properly informed. And I stress the word properly because there's a lot of indoctrination that happens in the schools. And these kids don't realize it because they don't go out into the world and search for information on their own. And the key is that there's plenty of information out there. Everyone knows that climate has changed ever since the Earth was formed. So climate change is just a natural state of things. Is there global warming? Well, there are plenty of articles that debunk that. And what I normally try to encourage students to do is don't just talk about these things from information you've heard, document what you've heard. How many students are allowed to turn in a paper that they've written without documentation? Every time you see someone go on the air, even a lot of commentators, they make all kinds of statements without any documentation. They have no footnotes, no bibliography. No one knows where this information came from. So I stress with students, when you find information, document it, and then announce that information when you make statements, especially statements that are very politically charged.
Yeah, and I guess I give credit to these kids, maybe more than I should, because if I was back in high school, every Friday I'd be like, I've got a cause I need to walk out for. This week, unfair trade deals. And me as my 14-year-old self walking out of class. But I guess that's why I give credence to these kids for actually standing up for political issues and trying to make a difference in regard to that. But that's why I want to bring up your organization as well. We actually have a soundbite from it. But your organization looks out to help kids educate themselves, not only on modern-day politics, but also when it comes to history and really what it means to be an American nowadays. I think we have that clip. Let's take a look.
I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge. Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance. With love and devotion. To the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, that may not seem like much, but that might be an extinct breed in in a couple of years. There's a lot of schools that won't even make you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, say it anymore, or let alone take a history class that focuses on those types of things. So what do you think more macro about the state of education in the United States? And really, you mentioned the word indoctrination before. Do you think that's reflective of all teaching methods in the United States nowadays?
It's pretty pervasive, no question about it. When you talk to faculty members at schools, at elementary level, middle school, senior high level, colleges especially, you see so much orientation towards a liberal or left-wing stance on things. And you very rarely see somebody with a conservative view. And oftentimes we read in the news how a person or a teacher with a conservative view gets denounced. Oftentimes they get basically criticized in public for having a conservative stance. Some people have even lost their jobs because of conservative views. So it's a pervasive problem. But kids need to learn on their own. That's why We the Kids has started history clubs. And the object there is for kids out of school to start a history club so that they can go and look on their own for information about the founding of the country, what the Constitution is, and the other founding documents, and understand really what the founding principles of this nation are, and understand what it means to be a citizen of America. Civics is gone in the schools for the most part. You might rarely find a school somewhere that still offers civics. I mean, it was mandatory when I went through school. But the thing is, kids today don't understand what it means to be a citizen, what their responsibilities are, what functions they should have, and how to do those things. And they need to learn those things in order for this country to really stay on an even keel with what the founders intended for this nation, which was for us to be a constitutional republic, not a democracy.
And, you know, I always have to give credit to the group Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, they really made a focus of applying those type of values to a college campus. And a lot of times it's a lot more dangerous on college campuses. Apart from the ideological difference, we've also often seen times of violence, whether it be at Berkeley, I guess most of the times being at Berkeley for that matter, whether it be protests or this most recent case of a student quite literally being hit. But so really quickly, what do you think of the future of children looks like? Do you think it's going to be more involved in that regard? Or do you think that this is something that we're going to see for a couple more years?
Well, we're definitely going to see this for a few more years because this is a major freighter set on a course by elements within our government that want to see America turn into a basically a communist state. I know that sounds a little extreme, but that's the direction that it's going because they can dress it up with terms like democratic socialism and all that sort of thing, but really it's coming down to communism. And if you go to people that came from communism to live in America and talk to them about what's going on here, that's exactly what they'll tell you, what I just said. It's all headed towards communism.
Yeah, well, I hope it doesn't turn out that way. But Steve, thank you for your work and thank you for joining us tonight. And coming up next, the world unites in solidarity for the victims of the deadly shooting in New Zealand.
I was hearing